So this is about to be a quick 10-minute video on Hagar and the Ishmaelites. Just real quick. So this is me reading from my blog, No Bastards in the House. Abraham's wife Sarah was barren upon entering Egypt, the land of Hathor. Hagar was the daughter of Pharaoh, given to Sarah as a handmaiden in Egypt as a repayment for attempting to go into Sarah. Hagar, Gar, which is Gamel Resh, means alien, guest, or sojourner. Her name reveals that she was a sojourner in Egypt, further proving this dynasty to not be native to Egypt. Sennacherib III, mother's name was Kenmet Nefer Hadet. Khan, Khan, is a prefix that derives from Ham or hand. Horites are called Kor, Khor, in ancient Egyptian transcripts. Nefer means beautiful, seen in Egypt amongst women, and also means individuals. A sheep's heart and trachea are its symbol. Khan, Egypt, was founded by Sennacherib II and Papyra of his grandsons Amenhotep II and III ruled from Egypt to Cush. Nefer refers to the base level of temple floors, thresholds, which is key in ancient Sumer. Hadet is the white crown of the Upper Egypt seen first on Namer's palette in the Temple of Horus in 3100 BC. Bet is the cow goddess. Is this okay? So that's going into all of that. But let's get into Genesis 16:1-3. Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaiden, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah's Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. If this go over 10 minutes, TikTok, y'all gonna have to go to YouTube to hear the rest. And so the exegesis in this text by the sages in Tosefah, Yef Mot 8 and 6 states that a man must divorce his wife if they are childless after 10 years of normal marital relations, providing context for Sarah's willingness to take a sister wife. In Hebraic culture, the child born to Hagar would be considered Sarah's child. So there are even those sisters who don't want to admit that Sarah didn't deal righteously with Hagar, because if she dealt righteously with Hagar, Ishmael would have still been able to be Sarah's child. The disposition of Sarah's heart rendered Hagar with a child in the desert. Today, open relationships and unrighteous polygamy are the norm. Competition amongst women creates broken families, so on and so forth. Because I was breaking down some stuff for my blog's purposes. I also want to let y'all know this, and I am not saying this. This is what y'all need to realize. I'll be reading sources and y'all be mad, and that's okay. I would have been grading y'all papers in schools, and it would have had a whole bunch of red ink on it for me to hand over to the teacher. In the end, Abram was able to reclaim his entire family after the mourning period of the matriarch of the Israelites, Sarah. For y'all to not, y'all, there are Hebraic customs that has to take place, right? Before his son Isaac got married, he had to make right by Hagar and by Ishmael according to the law. The dowry price for a virgin, if she was a virgin, and the dowry price for the bride. And then this would allow him to reclaim Ishmael as his son, which he clearly did. And then Ishmael had his own separate blessing. So when it begins to say that, and again he took his wife, we need to realize exactly what was going on. Now, I'm not going to read what some traditions say about Sarah, because that's just going to open up a whole bag of worms. So let's skim through this. An inscription from the Persian king Darius. This would be during the time of Xerxes, Esther, Haman, who was an Amalekite, who are descendants of Edomites. Excuse me, I had to drink some water. And so this is during the time and the reason why the book of Ezra, the book of Esther, Nehemiah, Daniel would be written in Aramaic. And Aramaic is still a Hebraic, a Semitic language going back to Aram in Genesis 10. So an inscription from the Persian king Darius calls Arabs Hagar, Hgr, which is why I continue to tell you guys this was a title. The Ad, AD, via Almodad are the original Arabs in the Arabian Peninsula in pre-Islamic Arabia. Almodad, who is the grandson of Eber, son of Joktan, is the progenitor. It's important to know that these Joktan Arabs were monotheistic in the mostly polytheistic Saudi Arabia during the time of Muhammad, and they began to help him spread the message of Salam, Shalom, Islam, which is simply peace. So it is stated that Salah, father of Egypt, was a prophet sent to Hagar, Saudi Arabia. He named this after her to teach the message of the poor. The word poor in Hebrew is ani, A-N-I, and then abon, A-B-I-O-N. And this goes into the Ebionites, Aboni. And so this is literally the same message that was being taught. Let's continue. And against polytheism. Gar, G-A-A-R in Hebrew means to correct, rebuke, or reprove. Yahushua and James the Just, his brothers, were Ebionites, the poor. The church scene donating their goods and acts for even distribution. Islam states Salil, the grandfather of Hagar. The Arabs are from her. Hagarites in scriptures and Hagarines who conquered Missouri, Abu Dhabi, near Saudi Arabia. They conquered the Persian Peninsula and Mesopotamia. These are Hagar's birthplace. Mazari, Iraq, and ancient Babylon is a possibility for her birthplace as well. But Hagar was very, very powerful woman. May peace be up on her. To begin to simply call her a bondwoman because a Greco-Arab apostate Paul called her one. When the Torah begins to call her his wife, we have to step out from how we as Israelites have come to know anything about Hagar. When we read Genesis 10 and 26, and Joktan begat Almodad and Shalif and Hazar Maheth and Jerah. In 1 Chronicles 27:30 through 34, over the camels also was Obil the Ishmaelite, and over the asses Jediah the Morinthites, and over the flocks was Jaziz the Hagarite. All these were the rulers of sustenance, which was King David's. So to kick against the Ishmaelites as if they were not side by side, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. Wow. So when we begin to see 1 Chronicles 5 and 10, in the days of King Saul, they made war with the Hagarites who fell by their hands, and they dwelt in their tents throughout all the east lands of Gilead. So these Arabs dwelt in the tents of Benjamin, even back to 1100 BC. So this is also how the Arabic tribe would be conflated with the tribe of Benjamin even before the Hasmonean dynasty began to come into play. Be clear. The Igbo of West Africa identify Eber as their predecessor. Eber means crossover, pass over, referring to those who pass over the Euphrates River. It is also the name of the region of Shemites, referring to Abram as the Igbo. Began in Egypt, the Hebrew. Eboda or Eboda is also Abdi, which is Abde, in the region of the Nabateans via Hagar. Abdis in Hebrew means slave. Just as Hagar was a maidservant, she was put away. Hagar was sold into the house of Pharaoh and entreated as a daughter, allowing her to be given to Sarah. And if you read the Torah, you will know this. There was a famine during the time of Hagar, Sarah, and Abraham. So if he begins to state that Salil or Selah is her grandfather, her father began to sell her to the house of Pharaoh in exchange for money. And Pharaoh began to entreat her as a daughter, which is how he was able to righteously give her away or sell her as a maidservant to Sarah and Abraham. Line up on line, precept on precept. So, Zamzam well, according to Islam, is where Hagar and Ishmael drank from when she was put away for the second time. She fled the first time when Sarah was being mean to her and she ran away. She had to go back and submit herself because she was not put away according to law, and she was a wife. Okay? Jacob is seen coming from the same place when Abram's servant is preparing Rebekah to marry Isaac. The Igbo teaches if a man impregnates a woman, he must marry her. If the man is found not taking care of his child, the elders will ask if he slept with the younger lady and require marriage. If marriage is not agreed upon, the bride price is paid and the child can now belong to the man. An unwed mother was considered as fertile, deeming her best for marriage. Shall the child be born in the house of her father, the child will take her father's name. In order for the child to get an inheritance of the father must first bring honor to the woman. Y'all, this is his sorority. Genesis 10:24, and Arphaxad begat Selah, and Selah begat Eber. Exodus 21:7-11. And if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the maidservants do. If she please not her master who had betrothed her to himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. Period. To sell her unto a strange nation, he shall have no power, seeing he have dealt deceitfully with her. And the fact that Hagar was a stranger in Egypt at that time, although that Nakada period was being ran by Cushites, he still was able to sell her because Abraham and Sarah were not a strange nation to Hagar. They were of the same blood, same kind. Just as the Igbo begins to say to the Taino Arawak Native Indians, Brim. And if he hath betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall not diminish. And if he do not do these things three unto her, then she shall go free without any money. Midrash states, let me drink some more, y'all. This is going to be longer than 10 minutes. And this is why I be telling y'all to read the blogs. Midrash states Isaac went to Beer Lahi Roy well to gather Hagar and Ishmael to remarry Abraham. Want y'all to know that when Hagar began to see the Melech, which gave her the promise that that she was pregnant, and then gave her the promise that Ishmael would be blessed, she said El Roy or Allah Roy. That literally means God who sees. So it states that Isaac went to Beer Lahai Roy, well, to gather Hagar and Ishmael to remarry Abraham. According to tradition, Hagar was the description of her societal role, which is why it would have been slave, Gaar, or Arab, Hgr, or alien, stranger, sojourner, whereas Keturah is her name. Keturah means incense in reference to those found in the cemeteries forementioned. So these incense were found in ancient Nubia and in ancient Egypt, where the areas that was named after Hagar, meaning the strangers or the Arabs in Egypt, which begins to denote the Arabic rule in ancient Egypt, the Semitic rule in ancient Egypt. There were incense found, and the incense holders were the same as the white Hujjats hat that was found in was it Upper or Lower Egypt? I can't remember. During the time of Sennacherib III, which was contemporary with Abraham, which is the same stone that is found in ancient Nubia, which begins to prove the Cushitic and Semitic dynasties in Egypt during this time. And so it is stated that Keter, Ketar means a joint not shut in or enclosed, alluding to the covenant between Abraham and her remained until they remarried. Zimram or Zambron, son of Keturah, went into Saudi Arabia, the location of Zamzam well. Joktan originally inhabited the region. Jokshan, brother of Ishmael and Kedar. You see how Ishmael named his son Kedar? Why would he name his son Kedar? After his mother. Son of Ishmael followed. Juxtaposition in scripture draws a correlation between chapters. Genesis 25:1. The word again, Yasaf, is rendered in the past tense for as in the narrative previously happened. 1 Samuel 19:21 shows a repeated function of past times using the same word, deducing the marriage of Keturah and Abraham was in place already. Y'all, this is how you literally exegese a text. Abram was dying and had to ensure Ishmael would receive his inheritance and from more children. It is also custom for elders to marry when their children are seeking to marry. Genesis 24:62. And Isaac came from the way of the well, Lahairoi, for he dwelt in the south country. This is proving that he went to the same well. And then we're going to find that Abraham marries and takes Keturah again. Okay, Genesis 25:1-4. Then again, Abram took a wife. See, and her name was Keturah. Then again, Abram took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bare him Zimram. This is the same name of the well that Isaac just came from. Elroy, the name of Keturah's son, and Jokshan, which are the name of the Arabs, which was associated not only with Joktan, but with Hagar and Midian, and Midian and Ishbak and Shua, and Jokshan begat Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Asherim and Let Ushim and Lumim, and the sons of Midian, and Ephah, and Epher. I want y'all to know that Epher, that's where the name Africa begins to come from. And Jokshan begotten Sheba. This is the same dynasty that it is stated the queen of Sheba or Sheba came out of. Okay? And so Epher and Hanak and Abidah and Eldad, and these were the children of Keturah. Rabbi Udun said the Torah teaches that if an unmarried person has adult children, he should see to marrying them off first and then take a wife for himself. From whom do you learn it? From Abraham. First Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and then Abram took his wife again. He took his wife again. He took his wife again, and her name was Keturah. Genesis 25 and 1. And this is when that word again is used in the same way. 1 Samuel 19:20 through 21. And Saul sent messengers to take David, and when they saw the company of the prophets prophesy, and Samuel stand as appointed over them, the spirit of Elohim was upon the messengers of Saul, and they prophesied. And when it was told Saul, he sent other messengers, and they prophesied likewise. And Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied. That word was there because the act had taken place 2 times before that third time. Line up on line, precept on precept. Like this is pretty undeniable. 12 nations of Ishmael, Genesis 25. Twelve through 6. And the nations are the generations of Ishmael, Abram's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaiden, bare unto Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by the names of their sons. We are just named. The firstborn Ishmael, Neboeth. This is the Nabatean Arabs. And Kedar. This is where the Quraysh and the Kadorites Arabs came out of. This is the branch of Arabs that Muhammad was born out of. Adbel and Mibsam and Mishma and Duma and Masa. This is actually nope. There is a person in the book of Chronicles whose name is literally Massey, and one of the brothers pointed that out for me. So the Massa people in Egypt are not from Ishmael. But that should maybe, because I think he's still a descendant of Ishmael. But the name Massey is literally in the Bible. Hadar and Tema and Jator. And this would be another branch of Keturah or Kedarian Arabs as well. And Naph, Ish, and Kedema. These are the son of Ishmael, and these were their names by their towns and by their castles. 12 princes according to their nations. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137. And he gave up the ghost and died and was gathered unto his people. And they dwelt from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as those goest towards Assyria. And he dieth in the presence of all his brethren. Like, what do y'all have against Ishmael? Let me see. 12 verse. 12 verse Shiism is a branch of Islam that is based on the belief that the Prophet Muhammad's spiritual and political leadership was passed down to 12 male descendants or imams. Imams literally goes into Emmanuel. Same word. Saying that God is with them, who are considered to be divinely appointed. So Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law, who is considered to be the first Imam, Ali ibn Abu Talib, may peace be upon them. And so 12ers believe that the Imams are infallible and are designated interpreters of the law and theology. They seek guidance from the Quran and the Hadith of the Prophet in statements and attributes, actions and attributes to the Imams. 12ers have faced oppressions and violence in many countries, including Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. They are also a majority in Azerbaijan and Bahrain and Iraq, where they also face oppression. So they began to reign with justice, and they are also able to preserve the Islamic law. So, yeah, I'm going to come back also with some more information on the Quran actually quoting the Torah and begging the Israelites vehemently to turn back to the oneness of the Most High. And I just uploaded a 44-minute video going in depth and proving that these 6th century Israelites, whose previous ancestors was actually present during the time of Yahushua, when he began to prophesy the fall of the temple, and they ran into Medina, they confirmed Muhammad, and they put together a Torah for him, and they made some Hebrew inserts into the Quran proving that Isaiah 42 was about him. And I'm going to just let y'all know, some Israelites during that time thought that Muhammad was the Messiah. And I'll be back with a video on that. This is Jacolia of Jacolia Gems.